This week, the editor's page explores a new avenue for accessing news and information. This is how most people get their newspaper fix: a perusal of their local daily or weekly and a spread of ink and paper. But now, the internet has emerged as a new medium for newspaper journalism. The St. John's Evening Telegram has had its own website for a few months now. It features local news and some of the trappings of its parent newspaper. You can even find out how the St. John's Maple Leafs are doing. So, does this new technology mean the presses of the traditional paper are about to stop? Not for a long time yet, says Miller Ayre, the publisher of the Telegram. He says the internet represents part of the ever-changing technology that newspapers have evolved with over the years. I spoke with Miller Ayre from his office in St. John's. Why have you taken the Evening Telegram to the internet?
Well, it's obviously part of what we do, which is generate information. And historically, newspapers in many respects have been like small internets themselves. If you stand in the middle of a newsroom, as sure as you would at the CBC, all sorts of information is flooding in, and you're trying to put it together into a package. In our case, traditionally becomes a newspaper, and out it goes. But a lot of what we do is edit and compile information to provide to the public, and putting something on the internet in terms of an electronic newspaper is part of that continuing use of the editing function that we carry out every day.
Well, what can the user expect to see? Will it look anything like the newspaper we're used to?
Well, yes, it does look like the newspaper in terms of the front page stories, and we emphasize when we're putting this kind of thing on the internet, we emphasize the local stories, because a lot of people who are coming in to see what we have would be Newfoundlanders living outside the province, who want to come in and see what the local stories are. The national stories they already get from some other form.
Is this a function of journalism or marketing?
I think it's a function of both, to be frank about it, but it is also journalism. It's part of the tradition. I would say newspapers grew out of the kind of a certain confluence of technologies, a few hundred years ago, with the faster presses and so on, and better quality paper for purposes of general usage. And the internet is a continuing part of this. But as a matter of interest, both Southam and Hollinger, who represent basically the new owners of the Telegram, have been very aggressive with electronic use of newspapers. The Jerusalem Post, the Chicago Sun-Times, the Daily Telegraph in England are all have some very active websites, and some of the very best in the world.
Well, as you mentioned, more and more newspapers are showing up on the internet. Down the road, do you anticipate people getting their newspaper fix from the internet as opposed to the traditional paper in their hand?
I think the way Hollinger and Southern look at it, and what the studies have revealed, it's going to be a long time before people reject the traditional method of reading any document, that is to say, whether it's a book or a newspaper. And just the situations in which you can read a newspaper as opposed to being fixed in front of a monitor is one of the big pluses. There's also a physiological reality in the way you read. There's been a lot of work done on what an electronic newspaper would in fact be like in the long run, as opposed to being, let us say, a terminal on at a computer. It would probably be something a bit like this pad that you see I have here, and that would be this would be an electronic thing, so that the shape of it would be about this size and this thickness, and it would probably be like a mobile phone in which you got your newspaper downloaded, as it were, into this kind of tablet, which you could also have in your briefcase, and you could hold in front of you and read in any kind of a situation. And you would read the top page, and when you wanted to go to the second, why, you would just flip through it the same way you would with as most people know, on flipping from one screen to another on a computer. But the point I'm trying to make is that it would tend to be the 8.5 by 11 kind of readable size, like a book, something in between a book and a newspaper. It would be something that you could change the angle to, sit in a chair with, and so on.
So in the meantime, does the Telegram make any money by having the paper available on the internet?
We don't. Well, traditionally, of course, the value of a newspaper includes the advertising, and the advertiser gets value from exposure. So we would hope to get ads on our website. More importantly, and one of the ways we can really help is that when people take classified ads, we can provide an added value. This may cost a bit more for the advertiser, but by automatically going in our newspaper, they would get on our website.
Very quickly, sir, what's been the reaction so far? How many people are clicking on the telegram?
Well, we've had a lot more hits, as they call it. I used to talk about circulation and numbers and number of home deliveries, and now we add hits. Number of hits to our website has been far beyond what we thought it would be, and we've had a tremendous reception from Newfoundlanders outside the province just trying to keep pace with things, and a lot of positive suggestions from people locally as to what they'd like to see. For example, we've been putting births and deaths on the website. I would not have put births and deaths on the website. It became something that everyone demanded on the website.
So are there any future plans for expansion?
Yes, we're going to do a few things with it that should be exciting for the public, but we haven't promoted it very heavily yet, as you probably know. I've had some bad experiences myself in people who've marketed their websites before they're fully constructed, and I think it's kind of misleading for people to come and not get what they're anticipating. So we're going to grow this thing a little bit more before we start pushing it.
Okay, Mr. Ayre, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks, then. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Now it's time for the Week in Review, a look back at the top news stories of the last 7 days in Newfoundland and Labrador. Early this week, we learned that the government had ordered a stop to a controversial early release program. Temporary absences allowed some people sentenced to less than 6 months in prison to avoid jail time. But in a